Well, welcome back to my old ranch. I'm just about done with this. My neighbor came over and he brought me this cable that came off of his riding lawnmower that broke and holds a spring, and this is what activates the blade, turns it on and off. So he brings this cable over to me. He says, "Can you fix it?" Well, I wish he'd brought it over to me before he did this. Now it's a problem. Clean break, because this is what goes on the end of it. Get the light here. This is what goes on the end of it, which is, this is lead, best I can tell, and this went on the end of that. But now that it's all frayed, it makes it much harder for me to weld it. I thought about soldering it, but in soldering it, it's not going to be all that strong. This goes inside of the spring, is what happens here. And if I solder it, there's not much left here for this cable to adhere to. So I'm trying to decide how I'm going to fix this. I'm not really sure at the moment. Stick with me, see if my fix works, and see how I decide to fix it. All right, so here's what I've decided where to start. First, I'll pull this cable all the way this way, and I want to see how long it is, because I'm assuming it's got to be pretty much the same length. Let me pull this back just a little bit. First thing I'm going to do, this is what I decided I needed to start with. So I've got the cable, I pulled it as far this way as it'll go, and I want to measure the length, so I end up with the same length when I'm done. So it looks like it's going to be 9.5 inches. Now what this means is that this little thing here, which slides down inside of here and catches that right there on the cable. So when you put tension on it, the spring tightens up the pulley for the fan or for the belt. And so I've got, and so from here to here, there's got to be 9.5 inches when I'm done, and strong enough so this doesn't break. So I'm still trying to decide how I'm going to do this. Now also, I have to make sure that this part here, I'm not sure how much, it looks like this little bend right here is how far it recesses in, but I can't go too far this way or to go into here and it won't work. So I decided where to start. I'm going to see what I can do to straighten up these frayed edges. I don't know what it will do, but I've got to try. Let me grab my pliers. Yeah, this is a mess. Problem is, we're out in the country, and by the time we order, yeah, this is a mess. Problem is, we live out of ways, so to go into town and look for a cable, time's consuming and costly, fuel and everything. So, and grass is tall now, don't really have time to wait on a part that we order online. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do, I'm going to make a piece of wire, or a heavy wire that I use for fencing, and I'm going to make a little knob on the end of it so that it won't slide through the spring. And then I'm going to do what I can, which is going to be a real trick, to braze that wire onto this wire. And I think I'm going to use this wire right here, leftover from some fencing, unless I find something a little better. And I'm going to braze it on I'm going to make a little knob on the end so that it can't slide out of that spring once I insert it. And then I'll come back probably to about there, see if I can't braze that wire onto here. Well, I changed my mind. This welding rod is about the same size as that wire, where the other is bigger, so it's going to be a little more difficult to get the heat right. So I'm going to see if I can't use this to make it work. All right, well, I'm going to use my small welding tip because I don't need much of a flame. So I got my tip cleaner, and I'm going to make sure this tip is clean so I have a nice clean flame. Okay, that should do it. So I thought about welding a real small nut or something on the end of this, but really it's going to be too large, so I think I'm going to try this. I'm just going to bend this over. And I made a little hook in it. I'm going to fill that in with brazing rod, and then I'll cut this back here, match it up to that wire, and see if I can't braze it on there. Let me get my torch lit up, make sure the bottle's on. Now, I don't need much of a flame. Two, when you set this, you want to make this lighter blue color a little bit long. That cools off the flame. If I bring it back like that, makes for a hotter flame. If I do that, it makes it a little bit cooler. So let's see if I can braze this tip. It looks like a pretty good blob. Might try to add just a little more. And what I also like to do is put a coating of brazing on this whole thing. Now, this is welding rod, and this will serve two things. One, will make it easier to attach this to the wire so the wire doesn't melt before I get there. Two, this will act with the brazing on here so it won't rust, since this is just mild steel metal. Come back just a little bit more. And I put a little more on the tip. I don't have as steady as a hand as I used to have. All right, that should handle that. Now I need to let it cool off a bit. All right, so I got that pretty much where I want it. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to do this part. I got to put this spring back on it, but then I got to hold the right distance. It needs to be about there. Well, get this spring back on it if I can. All right, from there I know I want the fray to be pretty much right at that ball. That spring has got to stay on it. That's problematic. All right, maybe I can do it right here. So it's got to end up about like that. Now I got to pinch this wire. Not sure how to do what I got to do here. Problem is, how do I hold the smaller wire at the same time as this one? Decided to try to use some wire from my electric fence wire. Man, I wish they wouldn't have messed with it. It would have been a whole lot easier. Now, I started this, so I was hoping it was going to be a little easier to wrap back up. We'll see. All right, now, if that'll hold it there, hopefully I'll weld this onto here. Got the right distance. This wire is not cooperating very well. Well, let's see what I can do with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can't get enough on it here. I might have to file that down a little bit to get it to slide through that spring. But if I get it started here, I need to get it back to here, then I'll take this wire back off and I'll finish it out and I'll cut that welding rod, try to make it work right. So hopefully, we'll see. Now this is the tricky part. The wire is gonna melt a whole lot faster than everything else. So heat up the brazing rod, try to drop that on there. Hopefully I can get it to take before it just melts the wire. Come on. Let's see if I can turn this. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay. I'm going to remove this. And I'll let that cool off so it doesn't burn me. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this welding rod about right there. Then hopefully, with it sitting there, I will raise the rest of that where it needs to be. We'll see. I'm going to let it cool off. It's still too hot, but I've got other things I need to go do. Now, I position it this way. That way, as I get this hot, it'll drip down onto the wire, not melt the wire, but solder itself or braze itself onto the wire rather than melt the wire. That's my hopes. There we go. I like that better. Okay. See if I can make this work. Afraid I was going to do that. I need to prop that wire up. Look at that. I need another hand. Try my knee. Yeah, that worked. Just turn in the right position. Ouch. All right, hopefully I can make that work. Get this thing tuned right. Cool it off just a little bit. Try this again. That'll work. Well, it's cooler. Now, let's see if I can't knock the high spots down. Still a little warm. Youch. Maybe this would help. Let's just see if it'll fit through. Yeah, it will. Okay, that's good. I don't have to do anything more than that. So there we go. That's what I made. That's what I made. Okay, there we go. Let's see if it'll slide through. Doesn't need to be pretty. It's underneath the lawnmower. Good. It slid through. And we have a fixed cable. That should work just fine. Well, it works. All right, starting to warm up. I'm starting to sweat a lot. You saw how I fixed this riding lawnmower cable that activates the blade. Made a rod, put a ball on the end of it, raised it up, managed to save it, and this should work just fine for this riding lawnmower. So if you like what I do, please like and subscribe, and share it if you like, and we'll see you in the next video.